Well, good morning.
Morning.
We're coming close to the end of this great weekend, and I'm glad I had a chance to come to Switzerland. It's my first time to actually stay here for a bit longer. I was just passing through it sometime, maybe 15 years ago, and the greatest privilege to get to know some of you. So next time, if we see each other in some country, who knows where, familiar faces. Now today, I want us to think about down-to-earth topic. So far we explored the ideals, okay? It's how you reconnect with the source. Reconnect with the source of the life of fullness, which is God Himself. And I know that there are many questions, how do you connect and everything, but I outlined 3 areas that you can start with, at least start to see how pneuma works where? Within you, through you, and around you. And the more you surrender yourself to this kind of guidance and influence, the more you will notice that this being or force connects us with other similar companions, people who are searching for God, and somehow you find yourself united, even though maybe not in the same predictable areas where you expect maybe your own church or your environment, but connected with all the random people, which helps you somehow grow in this certain period of your life. So this is called koinonia, when God helps you connect to others. And that's what we talked about yesterday. Whether you're religious or not, it doesn't necessarily matter. The fact surrendering yourself to this good influence, acting upon it, brings you closer to the better understanding of who God is. And also you feel that you're starting to belong to an authentic community. Now today, what happens when the storms come? When things are not ideal? When there are a lot of threats, a lot of things which steals from our fullness. You know how Jesus said, I came here to give you pleroma. Remember the text in John 10:10? I came here to give you pleroma. But the next part of the verse we did not quote. But there is somebody who wants to steal this from you also. There are different factors that can be. It can be really people, it can be some bad force, it can be your worries, problems, certain limitations that you carry inside of you which do not allow you to really experience the fullness of what we are talking this weekend. So today we are addressing those. And I'll start with just an example of our famous songwriter and a singer in Serbia. I don't know whether you ever heard about Lazić. Yay, so self-annoyed. Yesterday we sang some old Serbian songs here around, and I'm reminded of this author. This guy does not necessarily have a great voice, but you know, one of those people who sing narratively, and his lyrics are so captivating, expressing the soul of the people. And possibly the best part of his concert is not the songs, but what comes between. That's a very bad thing to say for an artist, but he was telling the story how, in one of his songs, he is expressing something which is very funny, and then he was telling these jokes, and people are laughing, especially one person in the first row. He was so impressed with his jokes, and he's laughing aloud, and so he said, okay, I'm funny, But then he changed the story, and he went into this a deeper emotion and sad story. Everybody else changed the face, and it became sad. Except his fan in the first row, he still continued to laugh. And then he realized it's something wrong with this guy, it's a cuckoo person. He possibly needs psychiatric help. Often, people who pursue the life of fullness can look like cuckoo people, okay? People who simply don't act appropriately. There is war around them, there is different problems, and they're somehow in peace. They can maintain the peace of mind and heart. So, we're going to explore the secret of cuckoo people today. So what's the secret? Let's assume that we're talking here about not a mental illness, but a genuine... What's one here? Battery issue. Okay, let me see if I have it in the bag. I'll just give it.
No, it was turned off, so it should be.
Yeah?
No, it's not working.
Try now. Check the USB.
Yes, it's working, so it's not a battery.
So
There's not much of it, huh?
Is it an echo? Is it an echo?
works.
If you press it on, it works.
Yeah, no.
That's right, yeah? So the cuckoo people, by definition here, are people who laugh when nobody else does. So somehow, this life of fullness is a quality that is internal, inside of you, and does not depend necessarily of your status and how hard your existence is, how hard your job is, whether you are appreciated in society or not. So it does not depend on external circumstances. So you can still laugh while nobody else does, okay? So, but how to do that? We can learn from the expert in the field, and this is the Apostle Paul himself, who is an exemplary species, of these cuckoo people. He wrote this letter in the end of his career, in letter to Philippa, which is found in the north part of Greece today. And this is actually happening in a time of persecution. But the Christians were experiencing the heat. They were not understood. They did not have properly developed their structures there, and people did not accept them. So they were under a lot of pressure. And in this letter, in these circumstances, when nobody else would laugh, he encourages them, go and be happy. Just go and be happy. Rejoice. That's the most often used phrase in the whole book. I'm going to just read the text here briefly so you can have the idea. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say rejoice, and this is already repeating many times in this book. Let your gentleness be known to everyone, the Lord is near. Do not worry about anything. So, Hakuna Matata, okay? It means don't worry for the rest of your day. So don't worry at all about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication and thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God. Now this is interesting. Why? Because it's the only place in the Bible where we find this phrase, peace of God. Usually it's peace with God. But peace of God is the only place. It's certain kind of phenomenon, certain kind of experience that he talks about here, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Jesus Christ. So in this text, we're going to find the secret of cuckoo people. So first, the peace of God. That's something which is part of this life of fullness. So if you just study the text and words before and after this phrase, this is what we can conclude. This is the state which abolishes all anxiety and worries. So technically you are not worried about your existence. Your life may be threatened, but you simply are somehow about this threat. Okay? Then anxiety does not exist. Okay? So this also experience is described as trans-rational. It's not irrational, maybe you have a plausible cause to be afraid, but you're just somewhere else, No, this is not unconscious, stupid, like happiness, irrational happiness. It's trans-rational. Experience goes beyond what you can explain. It's divine. It belongs to another world. It's part of this heaven that we are talking about. And it surpasses all understanding. Therefore, we will never find adequate definition of this experience, but we can taste it in the laboratory of our life. So it encompasses heart and mind. So it's not just a matter of, yes, I know that I should not worry. It's not just a mental peace, reasonable peace, but also the peace of heart. It encompasses the entire human being. Wow, that's something else. And the word used there to say that this peace shelters us in Jesus Christ. This word shelters is used from the military language. Remember Philippa as a town. This was the old town where usually when soldiers retire, they go there as a veteran city. So this is a city of reward. So after a long service in a war, you come to Philippa and that's where you get your something that you work for, your retirement, your pension, so to say, house, and everything else. Now, he's talking to those people who know what it means to live in a constant state of danger when you are in war, but also people who know what it means to have a fortress. Fortress at the time was possibly the most secure place that you can have. That's something which defends you against the external enemy. So the word he used that here is that this piece is a fortress for your mind. It's the place that nobody else can touch, even death, threat of death. So he says this is how strong the experience is. It does not depend on external circumstances. You can have it, and it's not just some kind of fleeing feeling which comes and goes without worrying because you're not aware, because you possibly drank something, so you're not aware. No. You're fully aware of things, yet you maintain this divine peace and fullness of life in a time of storm. So this is exactly what we are searching for. How do we maintain? How do we get into that fortress? How do we get into that fortress and be safe from all the external attacks? There is three type of answers that he gives, the solution for us today. So the mystery of the Kuku people revealed. Next says, do not worry about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, and let your requests be known to God. It's a bit of a dodgy translation there, but it hides three Greek terms. If you understand them, these are the key to understanding how do we get into this fortress. So these are three types of prayer. Proseuche prayer. You have it in every religion. This is this kind of general prayer. Thank you, God, for all the blessings, all the things that you did for us, and just a general prayer, God, and then you can even quote Jesus' prayer. How does it go? Lord's prayer. Yes, it's explain this general attitude of prayer. It doesn't even have to be expressed in words. When your mind is in ongoing connection with God, and this communication channel is open, so He can talk to you when He needs. This sense of alertness to God's presence. That's what we're talking about here. This is a continual channel that is open to God, and you're praying to Him and you're listening. And this kind of channel is called proseuche. It's the state of mind. The state of mind, when the troubles comes, you don't look left and right, you look up. Okay? So when problems comes, you look up. That means this is proseuche prayer. You inculcate God in your equation, in your life. When people say these are impossible, it's possible because there is somebody who is supernatural, who is greater than just human laws and everything, who goes beyond what we can understand, and He's on your side. Openness to His presence is proseuche. Yet, this is not where the text ends. The text says this is not sufficient to have this peace, but you go deeper. And then he mentions the second type of prayer, which is Eucharistias. Maybe you heard the word Eucharist, yeah? Often this can be a very sad event when people stand there and sadly receive the Eucharist. Eucharistias means thanksgiving. It means joy. It means celebration. When you are counting all the good things and blessings that God gave you in life, and you can't help it by being grateful to Him. Okay? So this Eucharistias is technically requiring a certain focus in your thinking, that you're not counting only your problems around, but you try to focus on what God is doing in the situation. Where is God in all this mess? Okay? And also counting how He reacted in the past, and counting all the blessings from Him. This creates the sense of trust, because the more you remember how God did great things in your past and all the blessings that you received, the more you are intentional about remembering it and counting it, the more your faith increases, and the more you are opening up to God to be able to do the third type of prayer, which is deesis. Deesis in Greek. This is the most personal, the most specific prayer. The exact thing which hurts you, not in general terms, you know, but the things which you are not even daring to admit to yourself, things which are so private that nobody else around you knows, even the closest people around you. And we usually don't open this to anybody else. We all have that very secret, very deep, very need, maybe even weakness and brokenness, which we don't allow other people to see. We are hiding it very skillfully, and we learn to put different masks to protect that special place. Only in situation of ultimate trust that we will be accepted as we are, bad or good, you know, that we are ever able to reveal this spot. This is how deep it goes. Okay? It's not just praying to God in general terms that everybody else prays, not only just being aware of His presence, not only just focusing on what's good and good works of God to increase your faith, but all of that leads to increasing your trust, so you can open up to God at a level that you thought that this was not possible. Okay? That's how this intimate relationship with God starts to function. So this is kind of the type of prayer. And yes, we have a question.
I have a question.
Yes.
When I talk to non-Christian secular people who they propagate mindfulness, they go to yoga, they say they meditate.
Yes.
And in meditation, what I learned from them, not from my own experience, but what they say, it is all about getting your mind empty and not
Yes,
to think, not to have thoughts, but to stop this cinema or this sequence of thoughts you have all the time. Would you say that in one of these three you find that as well, or would you say this is something completely else, or do you find something where you can connect with these people and say, hey, what you are doing, this is constant connection?
Yes.
Or
it seems to me, sorry to admit, but many of our prayers, routine prayers for food and for sleeping in the evening, in the morning, are mindfulness exercise, meaning that there is no brain present. We just learn the phrases and we repeat it. At that level, we go deeper. But what I'm talking here is more about content-driven. Sometimes prayer is not necessarily expressed propositionally, that you formulate your thoughts. Sometimes you don't even have words to express it. It goes so deep inside. And God understands still that kind of, yes, but it's a bit different, because I think in this Christian sense, thinking is encouraged, because this feeling can be gradually articulated, and the more you try to understand, the deeper you go. So, as embracing your personality in all your capacities, your brain and emotion, and embracing it and using it fully is a better prerequisite for connection. But I'm not expert in mindfulness. I think that the effects that you get in mindfulness is some kind of focus in life. You know how we run through life and we're governed by different thoughts and so on, but just being able to eliminate those and to be in a certain state, that's mindfulness. I think that this one might go deeper because it engages your mind fully. I don't know, that's my impression, but I might not be right. Yeah.
I was having experienced yoga, so I know what is this to be out. No thoughts and everything. It's absolutely, it's different. It's really very different, but this is really out.
Yes.
When your thoughts are going out, then anybody can put in you whatever he wants. So, and you are not free with this. For example, emptiness inside can guide you. You're open for some bad spirits actually, and they're guiding you in this.
Yes.
But here you concentrate on God, and you put your thoughts, because God didn't. Will is important here, because like Satan is hanging for that we have no will. Not our will. And here important is will. You are concentrated on God, which God also important. This God who Jesus who died for us and this. But there is like a lot of gods, and but in something it can be connected to explain that it is much more better, because you always get joy inside. When you pray like this, it's much more joyful, much more fulfilled. I was having this trance and this meditation, so I noticed it. Sometimes it takes you to such a level that it's getting fear.
I read a book like this. A guru, he's a Hindu yoga, who did yoga with people, and he said this effect is like taking LSD. Afterwards.
Yeah, anesthesia.
Yeah.
You're like out of
And this is very interesting. This is also my typical reaction.
Okay.
We are freeing ourselves, be open, and then someone else can take over. And
Yes.
we are saying, oh, be cautious, Satan is taking over. But if you tell these esoteric people, they will say, no, it's not about the devil taking over, it's about opening yourself for God to take over. And I can understand this intention. And when I'm asking myself, do we have something in Christian faith and Christian practice where we allow God to take over? Is it so completely wrong, this mindfulness approach? And it's an easy answer sometimes that we say, be careful, Satan wants to take your will over.
Yes, yes.
But I'm not sure if this is true.
Yes.
We shouldn't be so eager to put labels on what is different. And there are two things, different things. There are these religions, Asiatic religions, and there are practice, where some people are forbidding, for example, to do exercises like yoga exercises. They don't have something devil in them. If you don't go to religion, there are different things. You can do gymnastics, and it's a different thing. I mean, we shouldn't be so eager to put labels, because actually we put a label on ourselves and we exclude ourselves from things.
I think we can also reflect what we studied yesterday morning about pneuma. That we should be guided and be led by the Spirit. That is the presence of God in our lives. And the Bible says we are to be filled with the Holy Spirit. There is nothing in the Bible whereby we are counseled to empty our mind. When you become empty, anything can take over. And Jesus said, I will not leave you alone. I will send you another comforter. That is the Spirit. Because if you leave a gap, anything can take over. So we are to be filled and led by the Spirit. And that is the only means God can be present in our lives.
Yeah, just one thing, maybe my instinctual reaction, because I wish I'm more. I didn't try mindfulness, so I cannot just say on the side about the effects. I know there is a very popular movement now, which is technically atheist spirituality, that you can actually use prayer as a technique to calm yourself down and to feel the effects without believing in God. So they use this kind of techniques, and you can find some possible benefit in that, which I cannot testify to because I didn't try. But my instinct is that everything depends on how you see God present and engaged in human experience. We have two poles. One is that God is somehow deistic God who is absent from our experience. So we pray to Him, and prayer is good because you vent your soul. It will be good with or without God. It's a good exercise. It makes you a better person. So this is the one version of deistic God who is somehow absent, and our prayers are not necessarily here for God to be our Santa Claus who just fulfills all our desires. We will notice as Christians that we can pray sometimes, and the prayers are not answered. Okay? Sometimes God is just completely silent. In my life, there were periods of 4 or 5 years that I'm praying, and I almost feel guilty because God doesn't appear in the same miraculous way as He did in the past. But then I had to learn that actually God changes the avenues of communication. He is not always using this spectacular, miraculous revelation. He sometimes uses your brain, your thinking, your thoughts, and you to trust those. To do the best you know in this period of silence. Okay, on the other side there is God who suppresses, God who forces his way in, who is overly engaged, who obsesses you. I think this is more the case with like a demon possession. This is what we would experience in that regard. But God doesn't suppress humanity when he enters human being, but he amplifies humanity. He has this engagement, not suppression, not absence, but engagement politics. Meaning that I created you as a human being with a full capacity to decide for yourself and to feel deeply and to reason. So when I enter in you, I'm not suppressing those who become a stupefied Christian, a lazy Christian, but you are better being, you are more fulfilled, and all your capacities are stretched to the end. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's why relationship can then exist as a meaningful relationship. Not God who comes and suppresses you, or God who is absent and lets you on your own to figure out, but actually he interacts with you and your current understanding. He comes to your level, he accommodates so you can understand him, and he stretches you to a higher level. Sometimes he even tolerates your wrong perceptions of God and your wrong perception of things, but he acts on your level so you can start to experience him and to grow. So this is what I believe in general. Mindfulness, if it's a right thing, it has to not advocate complete suppression of our activity, mental and volitive and emotional, or leave everything to human agency because God is absent, but to understand this relationship as a meaningful engagement, where he asks you, you respond, like Abraham talking to God, and he comes to your level and adapts himself. Maybe I can give an example, and to many this will sound very, very, how would you say that? Okay, I'll just tell you, you think what you want. So, I mentioned to you that I had some kind of a contract with God, or Christians like to call it covenant, I understood that God wants me to go and study in such a place, in Oxford University, and we had a deal. I want your will, in your time, in your way. Because sometimes a good thing can be a bad thing if it's in the wrong time, or I can try to reach it in my own will, okay? And I learned this lesson from Abraham, he wanted good, he tried, and God promised to him, I will give you the offspring. That's a good thing that he wanted to bring Lot along because he could not have a child and because his wife was barren, so he had alternative. He'll have God to fulfill that. He tried once with Lot, it didn't work. He tries with Eliezer's slave or servant, it didn't work. And then he tried with Ishmael, with Hagar. He in the end learned that, okay, God promised something, wait for God. Sometimes they have like 4 times a year on Thursday or something, but it's beyond my deadline for my documents. So what happened is I fly to Syracuse, which is near New York City, and then what happened is there was a big storm in New York. Such a big storm that many things were cancelled. Island Center calls me again. They don't have a clue where I am. They say, sir, there's a lot of place now in New York, in any testing center there, if you want to go. When is it? Saturday. Third time. I was so mad, especially because I was in a house of a person who wants to sponsor me, and he's not even Adventist, and I don't think being Serb and Adventist is his favorite 2 categories of people, And now he's somebody who is just stupid, plainly stupid, So just go once there, a few hours, you're done, and you continue with your dream, So I had to risk here my finances and just opinion of my friend who would think that I am stupid, He's atheist himself, but so I argued with him, and I could not even find a sufficient reason. I just felt inside something's off, something's wrong. I want to stick to the initial promise, And then I cancelled. And I was sad. At this point, I was so mad at God and everything else. And all the questions were open. Did I make a mistake or not? Am I too narrow-minded or whatever? Maybe I have wrong theology. And then email comes, next email. Okay, we have another opportunity tomorrow morning, Thursday, in Miami, in Fort Lauderdale, actually. I've never been there. Fort Lauderdale, and this was a Thursday now. I had enough money to buy the ticket, return ticket, and it was the only remaining ticket, so the guy wanted to go with me, and the price jumped, so he decided not to go. Nobody else knew that I'll go there. I didn't talk to my parents yet. It's evening, Wednesday. Tomorrow morning, here I am with a map, coming to Fort Lauderdale. I found the place on time. I entered the waiting room, and there was a lady at the reception. And she said, okay, you can come in the waiting room before your test starts. And as I'm waiting, I'm sitting next to the lady, and when I listened to her accent, there was something familiar. I realized, okay, she's from Belgrade. So we started talking, and then she asked me a lot of questions. She met some Protestants in this cruise, and she also, it's a miraculous way how she came to this center. And then she said, do you know something more about Protestants and Christianity? And we had such a good conversation, and I feel that I managed to help her with some questions, and I thought, okay, well, all these hula hoop, all these acrobatics that I'm doing here in 3 countries is because of this lady, that we can have this connection or whatever. But no, that wasn't it. A reception lady comes back and she said, sir, you have a telephone call. I said, no, I don't. Nobody knows that I'm here. Oh, don't worry, it's my friend. She's from Serbia, and she was complaining yesterday the entire day how she feels this nostalgia. She wants to talk to somebody who speaks Serbian, just to have, exposure to the Serbian culture and so on. So she asked, can she be your tourist guide for the remaining of your days in Miami and Fort Lauderdale? She will gladly take you everywhere you want as a tourist. I said, it could be stupid to reject this option. I said, yes, but after the exam. I come to the exam, and the question that I got is, it can't be better question. It was the one I taught for the entire year at Newell College, the music of romanticism, 18th century music. And it's a very specialized terminology, so there is no way I would know any other question except this one. So I knew it was going to go well, and it went very well this exam, so I knew I passed it, possibly with very high marks, but the problem was still that I need to submit it tomorrow. In order to be within the deadline, it will take them 13 days. So I was still concerned what's going to happen. But somehow I started to have this cuckoo piece, okay? It's going to be okay. I entered the car with this lady from Serbia and started talking without yet giving away my name. And then I started talking, and she says, are you Tihomir Lazić? I said, no way. No. How do you know? Were you the radio speaker the entire year, 2003, in Chicago, 2003-2004? Every morning, 8:45, they call this radio the Path of Hope. So I had presentations every morning about God and religion. And she's atheist. And she prayed to God when she was listening to these programs. I don't believe in you, if you exist or not. But if this is true, what this guy is saying, you arrange a private meeting with him. I was living in certain part of Chicago. She waited the entire year, and I stopped with the program, went back to Serbia. Nothing happened, so she concluded God doesn't exist. Here we are, 7 years later, in the same car, talking to each other. So you can see her excitement now. Her prayer is being answered. At the same time, I'm so glad, and I'm thinking, wow, well, this is quite a... Imagine coordinating this kind of meeting in the middle of Fort Lauderdale, which I had never visited before. 7 years later, her prayer is answered. And then she says, oh, regarding your tests, don't worry. My best friend in our center is the president of our center. Today we can get your results. Results came on time, literally before the deadline. I sent them in, and I was accepted. Crazy. 3 countries, 3 options to do it in my way, my timing. And I stick to this promise, initial promise. I wonder if I didn't stick to that, whether I would experience this kind of providential guidance, which goes kind of beyond human. Meet all those people on the way and get results on time. So what that tells me is that God listens to those private prayers. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was really wrong about Sabbath and everything else. But this is the best that I could understand at that point. When you express to God, this is prayer. This is your personal agreement. This is something which you have between God and you. He's willing to adapt to that and to work on the premises and to lead you higher. Okay? So this is my encouragement to you. If things go wrong, God can find a creative way out of the problem. Sometimes He will not answer in the way we expect. He's not a jukebox. Okay? And He's not here a miracle worker which is just jump on every prayer you say. But sometimes He will. In my case, He did it. Some other prayers He did not answer, which are very important prayers to me. So I don't promise that God will always answer the way we expect. But there is always this element of engagement, meaningful engagement, that He agrees to be part of just to keep you within the relationship. And this engagement, once you know God is behind this, this is not just my human pathway, but I had a promise with God. He gave me this promise, and He will follow through. This gives you the sense of peace. So you do base your trust on solid arguments, that God was always faithful to His covenants, always faithful to His promises, genuine promises that He gave. And if you really stick to those promises and you trust that, there is something which you experience. Even in the time of troubles, you experience that you can still have peace. So, okay, let me wrap up and we can end. If you want to ski, the text says there you can have the peace of God, supernatural experience of peace, state without anxieties and worries, state which surpasses your understanding. You can't even explain it fully. It's more than human feeling, more than you necessarily receive through mindfulness. It's supernatural. You can have it, but in order to have it, you need to be very in tune with your God. And being in tune means having this open mind, proseuchen mind open to hear what God is doing, what He's saying. Mind which counts all the blessings and focuses on good things. It's all about focus on good things that God does, because this opens up the trust channels so you can actually pour out your soul before God and pray private prayers, make agreements with Him, and have a deep relationship. So, how to be happy? Stay in tune with God. Jews, they have this very interesting way of interpreting the words. They are pictorial words. Every letter has certain meaning. Shem, this is the first letter, Shem or S, is the symbol of teeth or destruction. El or Lamed is the symbol of power or scepter, authority. Then we have Vav, which is connected, and Men, which is commotion or chaos. So when you put this together, it's a rabbinic interpretation, not necessarily biblical, rabbinic interpretation. It means to destroy the one whose rule is connected to chaos. So destroying the one whose rulership or rule is connected to chaos. There is somebody who wants to take away your peace. Somebody who wants to take away from this fullness, to steal from it. When you read this word, it means shalom. Peace. I wish you peace, which means well-being, abundance, fullness of life. And also desire for God to break away all the chains of our prejudice, the chains of our worries and our problems, to have the control of our soul and to bring commotion and chaos. God wants order in our soul. He wants us to live the life of fullness. So when I wish you in the end, shalom, or Shabbat Shalom, shalom, I wish you that you can live the life which is free, life which is a life of fullness in the midst of storms. Thank you for coming today, and I'll leave you with those thoughts, saying shalom to you.
Amen.
Amen.